All right, guys. So we have got our new toy game that we're going to look at. We've got condensed out of position with traps versus a versus a linear in position. And so the condensed out of position with traps is jacks through sevens for the out of position player and aces. So the nuts sometimes, and then jacks through sevens. And in position has got aces through fours. Okay. So, very quickly, you can think about, what you think this should look like. Should out of position be doing a lot of betting? If so, to what sizing? Should out of position be doing a lot of checking? And as long as you didn't say a bunch of big betting for out of position, I think it's okay-ish. Check is going to be a pretty powerful answer here. There you go. Check, pretty powerful answer. So not much to explain other than the fact that you're heavily disadvantaged. Opponent has, aces, kings, and queens. You don't. And your range is basically bluff catchers and showdown bound against a very large fraction of your opponent's range. And, as a result, you should check. With that, we get into the in position strategy, guys. All right, guys. So now we've got the in position strategy in this condensed out of position with traps versus a linear in position. So how does this work? Well, we jam aces through jacks. Keep in mind also that jacks is the top of our opponent's range. If we just go back really quickly, well, our opponent has aces as a trap, but jacks is the top of this part minus the trap. So it does make sense. Aside from losing to aces, jacks will split or beat the rest of the opponent's range. So jacks through aces, very strong hands. And then we check the middling component of the range. I don't know if I can communicate to you guys how important this just basic illustration is, right? Value bet the very top of your range, check the middle of it, bluff the bottom of it. I mean, when you're playing and you're in position on the river, this is just how it works. River strategy is really not that tough as the in position player if you understand this. And then you can correctly place your hands in the right context. If you can correctly identify this is the top of my range, these hands are strong enough to value bet as the in position player. These hands beat the majority of my opponent's range. And then likewise, these hands are medium strength hands. They should be checked, and these hands are bluffs, and they should be bluffed. But at the same time, I have to make sure that I regulate my bluff to value ratios, right? So making sure that you don't end up betting with more than 1/3 bluffs for the overall betting range, so that the betting range is 2/3 bluffs if you're going to be betting pot, right? We've talked a lot about that already. But yeah, just making sure that that's sort of, you're kind of within that range, and that's what you're doing. Yeah, I think that's, as far as the in position strategy goes, that kind of covers most of it. And we can go ahead and take a look at the versus bet strategy now. All right, guys, so we're taking a look at the versus bet strategy, and we've got the out of position player, the in position player betting into out of position. So in position is betting pot, and we already know from some of the work we've done that we should expect a 50% fold from the range of hands that beat bluffs. Of course, our opponent's bluffing with 4s, 5s, and 6s. So sevens is, of course, a hand that does in fact beat bluffs in this instance. So we would expect, since this entire range beats bluffs, we'd expect exactly a 50% fold, and that's exactly what we get. So everything's jiving. We're in a perfect world that we understand, which is always nice. Keep in mind our opponent's bottom end value bet is pocket jacks. So we pure call jacks plus, so jacks and aces. And then we mix the kind of bluff catcher region, which is 10s through 7s. It looks like 10s and 7s is basically pure fold, but of course, we already know from the work that we've done together that when we hit strategy and EV, and we look at the EV of calling or folding pocket 7s, it's 0. And if you look at the EV of calling or folding pocket 10s, it's 0. That's because these hands are identical. So these hands are, in fact, the same for all intents and purposes. Again, calling with pocket 10s has the nice kind of quote unquote bonus of preventing the opponent from expanding the value betting range down from jacks into 10s. Whereas if you were to call it instead with like mostly 7s, potentially hands like pocket 10s might start to incrementally be value bet. So that's the only real advantage to kind of overcalling 10s, but these are all worth the same amount of money. They're all bluff catchers. And like I said, in this kind of a context, we have a perfect world that we understand. We don't have to deal with raising because, of course, our opponent jammed. So there's no raising option. So just a very clean, very elegant illustration. It's a toy game, but it's a very elegant illustration of all of the theoretical principles that we've come to understand. So thanks very much, guys, and I will see you in the next video.